Welcome back to the Life with Nick podcast. I am your host, Nick Kleitch, and with me today is the owner and president of, is it Fidelis Assurance Solutions, or did I just totally butcher that, Reid?
No, you got it right this time.
Thank you for having some grace with me on that, and welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. Honored to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun conversation, a lot of learning conversation, and just to kind of spearhead this directly so our listeners know what we're up to here. First and foremost, we're going to just talk a little bit on your story. There's quite a bit that went on for you both personally and professionally that I think can derive a lot of lessons from in terms of mental toughness, persistence, kind of just not maybe things working out in some areas, other things working out great. And it's always good, I think, to learn from other people. So we'll hit that. And then most importantly, towards the back half, we're going to talk about men's mental health. And I think that that's something that us men do not do a good job of opening up about. And we're going to try to be kind of the trailblazers to get that a little bit more destigmatized, as you had mentioned. So if you're ready, man, I'd love to dive in.
Let's do it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So just to do a very quick introduction here, could you just kick off, the beginning parts of your story? I know we had a conversation before the podcast, and I didn't know what I was getting into, but the layers of it just continued to build and build and build. And I'm sure that I'll have some questions or some thoughts as that goes up. So I'll kind of turn it over to you, and let's kick it off, man.
Let's do it. So yeah, like you said, I'm the owner of Fidelis Assurance Solutions. I am in the business of supplemental insurance. I'm also in the IT world as well. So kind of running both of those through my business. But other than that, before this, I was in the Marine Corps for 4.5 years, medically retired from there. Didn't have a clue at what I wanted to do. Went to college for another semester, decided that was definitely not the route, and got a job traveling all over the U.S. and Canada, installing barcode scanners, camera systems, dimensioning systems, logistics automation all over the U.S. And then, it was a really great job, but I was just gone all the time, and I had a wife at home, 3 dogs, and was just constantly living on the road, and that wasn't the life I really wanted. So an opportunity kind of fell into my lap, and made the transition from, traveling everywhere to working from home, running my own business, making my own hours, being my own boss. So as much as I love that last job, I don't think I could change. I wouldn't change my current position for anything. So I get to be home. I get to spend time with my family, and it's been going good.
Yeah, you can't blame someone for having an at-home setup and spending more time with their family.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing that, man. I appreciate it. We're going to dissect a little bit here and get into some of the, I think, the ambitions and some of the perseverance and maybe some of the tougher battles that you had to face. And I think what really sets the tone for this kind of thing, Reid, is like when someone's graduating high school or graduating college, and they may have an early dream of what they think that they want to do with their life. And, coming out of those education systems, of course, everyone has that intention, right? And you just haven't been beat up by the world quite a bit yet, so you don't know how things can maybe not go as planned. But yeah, so, you're graduating high school, and I think, per our conversation on the phone, was it you getting into the military right out of high school, or remind me again of that early stage of kind of finding your way there?
So since I would say probably 6th or 7th grade, the goal was to graduate high school and go straight to the Marine Corps. That was always the plan. I didn't see anything else. I didn't see a future. It was get out of high school, get the hell out of Iowa, and join the Marine Corps. So for me, it was really difficult to put things into perspective and kind of grow up. I had my plan. I knew where I was leaving. So really it was a party until I left. But there was a lot that happened prior to that, prior to me leaving. My senior year, I started taking antidepressants and my mom had talked me into at least trying a semester, being a true freshman, fresh out of high school, experience of college life. I didn't want to. I knew school was not for me, but my mom, I trusted her and I wanted that experience. And I had a lot of friends that were local in the area. So got a, $350 rent with 5 other people and just partied my days until I left, but quickly found out that you could not be on antidepressants and join the Marine Corps. So as soon as I decided that semester was over, went to the recruiter. He gave me the bad news, and that devastated me because that was my entire plan. And I just felt like I had ruined everything by getting prescribed antidepressants. I thought I was just being weak, and it was caused by some girl or some high school drama or whatever, and it was just stuff that I should have been able to get over with. But
let's put a pin in that in terms of, we'll kind of integrate the mental health along the way because I think the two intertwine, but that's a perfect indication of kind of what the man and men are taught right there. Exactly. Just, you had the plan, you got, hit with some adversity, and it's immediately like, why couldn't I just been tougher to go through that? And likely the reason, you got on it in the first place was a very valid reason.
Absolutely.
And so we get a little dose of adversity, even though we have a plan. So sorry, I'll turn it back over to you, but I just wanted, it's a good initiating point, into this mental health conversation too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, it was always the goal. So when they told me I'd have to be off them for a year, it would be at least another year before, I was able to join. It became like, great, now I'm stuck in Iowa. Like everything I had going for me is gone. And just that one little thing just immediately depleted any ounce of motivation and drive I had for joining. And I got to the point where, I was not sleeping, I was partying, and it just became so, I was just lost. And I didn't have an outlet, and I didn't think, I thought I was either going to get in trouble or I was going to end things before I got to that point. So, but that was just, that one little thing that was,
right.
Just being told, hey, you can't be on this medication and be a Marine. So,
yeah.
And then, at that point, I immediately quit cold turkey on my medication, and my parents, immediately saw the decline, and I wasn't living at home, and they had actually threatened to put me into a mental institution for like a weekend or whatever. They told me it took 2 signatures and that's all it took. And I took that as, if I don't move home and do what they're trying to make me do right now, I will never get out of here.
Right.
And because I didn't, the way I looked at it is I can't be on antidepressants and join the Marine Corps. If I get admitted to a mental hospital, there's no way they're going to accept me. So
there's no way. Yeah. Well, and just to touch on this a little bit as well, too, I know that even myself included, when you're in that college environment, there is obviously a freedom that you've been, given, which is great. But when you don't have that, kind of kick in the ass in terms of authority, and you're drinking a lot, that cycle can be very vicious because no one's telling you to stop. And if it's helping you cope in that particular moment of life, I've been there as well too, where you feel like that's maybe the only way, or, beings that if you're, let's say, social at a party, that at least helps you kind of mentally escape from what's going on. But that can obviously lead to tough things. So from there, go ahead and pick up. And so now we're potentially moving back home.
Yeah. So parents they're pretty set on, you're spiraling and you're not being yourself. And that's kind of when a lot of rage kind of started. I had growing up, I would punch stuff, hit the wall, do that type of stuff, little stuff like that. I was so numb at this point. I would be out in the garage punching bricks. I would shatter glass and I would punch the glass. I think there's some pictures of me from back then. I just all cut up from my hands, just dripping blood. I got mad and went outside and took it out on the walls. But that was kind of just like the starting point. Normally I had just kind of dealt with depression. I was used to being sad. I'm a product of divorce. My parents split when I was 6 months old, or give or take. And so from a very early age, guilt and trying to piece things together has always been kind of where I sit. And so, I was used to seeing, my mom be sad as a child. Every time I would have to go back to my dad's, my mom would cry. It would, that would tear me apart every single time. And so, going back and forth from an early age, it was just, I was always sad. I was used to being around sadness,
Gotcha.
And so, growing up, like I always had to make choices. I played sports, year round. I played baseball, basketball, football, soccer, wrestling, you name it, track. So I had sports every day and I had sports every weekend, and that really took a toll on, visiting my mom. I had to choose between sports and, as a kid in Iowa, that's kind of all you live for at the time, sports and girls. So it was tough. And I just adapted that mindset very early on that everyone's sad. And sad was just a normal onset feeling for me. Gotcha. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And maybe to ask this question too, when you were visiting with your I about said colleagues, sorry, I'm not trying to be too official, like your boys and playing sports and stuff like that. Did you ever notice a difference? Like, was there anyone that was like, let's say super, super happy, or, you saw somebody that was, this or that, and you're like, oh, like, cause sometimes, and I'm asking this in the sense that sometimes you don't know what you like, whatever you think is normal, you think is normal. Right. So were there any moments like that when you were like, oh, like I came from kind of a sad, environment, unfortunately?
I think around like junior high is when I kind of started noticing it. Like I seem to be much more down than a lot of my friends, and a lot of, and I would see that and I would be like, well, and then that's where, comparing yourself to others it does you a huge disservice, because if it wasn't sports, it was, just mental attitude and just overall likeness. Like I remember walking the halls of high school, just having my headphones in, looking down at the floor, not talking, not socializing, and I honestly got picked on because of it, like it was just a never ending cycle for me, because it became to the point where, Reid, why are you depressed? Like, why are you so sad? And I just wanted to be left alone. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know how to put it into words. I was just like, fuck you. This is how I feel. Like, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with anyone. Let me isolate.
Yes.
And so
let me isolate. Yeah.
And so, back to the divorce, but conflict resolution I hate conflict. Like it gives me so much anxiety. And if I have to be the one to, start the conflict or do all that it gives me so much anxiety. And I have spent my life, resolving conflict. Not out of because I want to, but because I feel like I have to. Yeah. And it's always just been, from as long as I can remember, just conflict resolution and just being used to people that were sad, like being a shoulder for, whoever, my mom, my brother, or, whatever. And
Well, if I may interject here, so I'm the oldest of two, and my parents are divorced as well, and I feel that when you're in those moments of being the shoulder to lean on and being the I guess courage or the pillar for people, you never ever take the time to check in on yourself, because I feel like you just assume that position. And sure, there's joy that comes out of that because you're being that pillar for someone else. But in terms of suppression of emotions, that's definitely something that is a real thing that may work itself out later on. So that's one thing I do feel like. Did you feel that in terms of your journey?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it didn't feel like it was something I just wanted to do. Like I wanted everyone to be happy and peaceful and all this. It was, if I don't do this, like, I don't know what's going to happen. And it would just, my mind would race and I couldn't stop those thoughts. And so a lot of times, the easiest thing for me, and I still do it to this day, is shut down and isolate.
Gotcha.
So just no response, really, just yes, no, or, and you just shut down completely and put this wall up.
Right.
And that's been my coping mechanism as long as I can remember. So
yeah, gotcha. Well, it makes sense too, though, because you're trying to protect yourself. That's where those come from, as you know. So we're gonna circle back on that particular thing, because I do think that would be relevant to talk about. If you wouldn't mind, I'd kind of want to get us back to a little bit towards the pursuit of the story in your career. So we get that news that isn't necessarily the best. You're at home. I believe, if I recall right, you had another attempt to get in, and you did, or am I just completely making that up in my head?
I had another attempt. I went back. No, I didn't wait the full year. I just went back and tried to see what I could do and talked to another recruiter and got things in motion. And I think I joined the DEP like November of 2012, and I left for boot camp April 1st of 13.
Gotcha. And can you do me a favor and just do a quick explanation of what that is for someone that might not know?
So the DEP, I can't even think of what delayed entry program. Yeah,
delayed entry program. Okay.
So once you essentially go to MEPS, which is military. That's like the whole process of getting started.
Gotcha.
Essentially, so your physical, your background check, all that type of stuff. You go down to MEPS, you take your test, you do your physical. Once you're done with that, then you pretty much get sworn in. And from that day on, you are just waiting to go to your boot camp.
Gotcha.
And so while you're in the DEP, you're technically in the military, but you don't rate anything. But so say you were in the DEP for like a year long, you're gonna get that back. That's the date that your service, starts. So
gotcha. Okay.
But so that whole time, I was doing my best just to stay out of trouble. I didn't really want to risk anything before I left. And I had already missed one chance, so I wasn't about to miss another. And went to boot camp. Boot camp was 3 months long. Probably one of the toughest, funniest, most motivational times of my life by far. I mean, you're coming from small town Iowa. I'm out in San Diego in the perfect weather, and I'm just, we're drilling every day. We're working out nonstop. And, I think when I checked into boot camp, I was 127.
Oh my goodness.
Within 5 days or like a week, I was down to 117. I was what they call double rats. So I get double rations at every meal, essentially, so I can keep my weight on during this, 3-month period, because you're burning calories from the moment you wake up till you're going to sleep. And that is the best sleep you'll ever get in your life.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine. Yeah.
And so boot camp was, 3 months long, got to the Crucible, became a Marine at the top of Mount Motherfucker, which I don't even really want to try to describe it, because that feeling I can't put into words.
Right.
You go 3 days nonstop, no sleep, hiking forever, and then you get to Mount Motherfucker, it's called, and you climb that, and at the top is when you become a Marine. So
wow.
Everyone, gets information. Your drill instructor comes by one by one, hands you your EGA, congratulates you, and you're at the top of the world at that point. There's no other. It's hard to explain still. It's just, you work so hard, and you don't ever see the end in sight, and then you're there, and it just, everyone's up there crying, and
oh gosh, yeah, I can only imagine.
It's such a cool experience.
Yeah, and I can, obviously visibly see you smiling and going and reliving that, and to know that at one point, right, you get a very tough piece of news that says we're not going to be able to take you for a year, and you think about all that pain and anger, waiting, and then you go through this whole trial and physical test and mental test, and to get to that point, just it's got to be euphoria to be able to get to that point, because there was a point where you didn't even think you'd be able to get in, and to get to that point, I think is that's just the first part of the pie. But I just think the mental toughness and the perseverance that you had to exude during that time period, that's what life's all about right there.
Yeah. I'm so thankful that I got that opportunity to go and prove myself and do what I always wanted to do. That from 6th grade on, that was the dream. That was everything I had intended. So at that point in my life, I was on top of the world. There was I was still at boot camp, but
still,
it was, yeah.
We're not just going out for a couple mile run and celebrating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh man. And how old are you at this time? Just out of curiosity.
So when I joined, I was 20 years old.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So I turned 18 my senior year, and then had to wait that year. And so when I joined the DEP, I was 19, but by the time I went to boot camp, I was 20.
Fantastic. So you got, even at having young man's energy, it was still just a sheer test of willpower. And that's awesome, man. So at that point, right, so you're in that moment, you've just got to that and made that accomplishment. Do you take some time off and just soak it all in, or what's next in that world?
So after boot camp, you can either go straight to your next training, which is another month long of hikes, fully packed. You're doing certain missions, you're shooting different types of guns. MCT, you get to throw a grenade, shoot a grenade launcher, that type of stuff. So, you really get to experience a lot of different things. You're not just, this part of the training isn't as much breaking you down and building you back up. It's, you're already built up. Now we're going to make you a legit Marine. We're going to teach you the ins and outs and how to do everything correctly. And that's what boot camp is, but this is kind of just like phase 2.
Gotcha.
And so this is another month long, but typically you get a 10-day break between boot camp and that, or you can go on recruiting duty, which is usually a month or a couple months. And then you go to that. But I took the 10 days, went home, and then just went back straight to it. I actually broke my toe the day before I left for MCT, and I had to go through MCT with a broken big toe the entire time. So that was miserable, because those were 14-mile hikes through the mountains of San Diego. So
just another piece to that mental toughness. But I also think too, when your mind is set on something, you're going to work through pain. Pain is just a part of the journey, and you had gone through enough to be like, this is not going to stop me from from achieving this. So let's also bring back up the mental health piece here. So obviously when you're working towards a goal, like, do you have the same symptoms at this point, or are you so focused on achieving the outcome that like you don't even pay attention to the mental health at this point?
So a big thing with mental health in my mind is when I have nothing to focus on, I am a million miles in every which direction. But when when I'm in that environment, so like boot camp, MCT, those environments, it's very high energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're constantly on the go. There's not a whole lot of like downtime. So you don't really have time to sit and think. And that is where I usually get in the most trouble, is when I have time to sit and stew. Nothing good usually ever comes out of that. So if I can occupy my mind, if I can stay busy, stay grinding 24/7, I don't really have time to think about what's going good and what's not going good in my life. It's more just get through the next day and mind on the mission and stuff like that. So it's a lot easier in that environment to be not necessarily myself, but focus on what needs to be focused on.
100%.
I'm not spread thin and like all over the place. I know what I need to do. I'm able to do it, and I have everyone around me to do it with. So,
and I think that, sorry to cut you off, but I think that in terms of mental health overall, this could be a couple things that you could consider if you feel like you're struggling with that, is a strong social group that is very positive, let's say, or more positive than not. Number two, just something that you're working towards. And I think regardless of if you are, in a mental health crisis or not, like that's just, especially for men, that is so critical. Whether you're writing a book or doing a podcast or selling insurance or running a business, like that focus and keeping that front of mind, I feel like can at least give you some sense of purpose and direction. And then, being busy, someone would argue that that might be bad because you're maybe avoiding what you want to think about. But at the same time, as long as you're doing productive things, I think being busy is definitely okay for the most part. So if there's anything you want to comment on, I just feel like that's a good way to kind of just throw some helpful points in there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one, who you surround yourself with is huge. There's people that are just going to bring you down. That's just who they are, whether they're trying to, there's just negative people in the world. And the more you surround yourself with that negativity, the more it's just going to drain you and keep you in that space. But, I found in being vulnerable that who I can really talk to, who I can really lean on. I've found who I can't. There's a lot of people in my life that don't really create positivity or, induce productivity or anything like that. And so, I kind of have put up a wall towards certain people in my life, and that has seemed to help. But absolutely, who you surround yourself with is so huge. And I know you hit on a couple other things other than that. What did you say again?
Yeah, so you're good. Yep. The second thing is, especially for men, having something to focus on.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if anything, for people like with my type of mindset, if I finish anything that I set myself out to do, I have a sense of accomplishment. I have, I get that dopamine from finishing tasks. So simple things like creating a little like task list, like just check those off throughout the day. I mean, and that's just those little things, they're just going to build that momentum, help you, stay afloat and give you something to focus on, rather than just, oh my God, I have a million things I need to do. And then you just can't focus on anything in that, or at least I can't. So, setting up myself with a lot of different tasks, whether they're small, whether they're big, I try to break things down and make them more manageable. So I'm not just spinning wheels and I'm actually moving with a purpose.
Yeah, that's great. Love that, man. Love that. So kind of working back to getting on track. So we do have a major milestone there. We come home for a couple of days, and then where do we go from there?
So we go to MCT. That's a month long, and then by the end of that is when you find out your orders. So I knew I was going to be in the aviation field. I didn't know what my career was going to be in the Marine Corps. Still at this point. So I'm 4 months in and I don't know what my future is going to hold still. But I knew it was going to be in the aviation field. So very end of that, I got my orders. I was going to be avionics, which is glorified electrician for either whatever aircraft. And so I went down to Pensacola, Florida, and I was there like 3 or 4 months. I left there right before Christmas. And so that was my first schoolhouse. And then you have 2 schoolhouses while you're there. First one is like your basic general education for whatever your job is. And then from there, then we kind of got more orders, kind of figured out which lane we're going down. Took another course. Once you pass that, then you got your official orders. And then these are your orders for the aircraft that you're actually working on. So I found out I would be working on CH-53s. I had the chance to work on Ospreys. I chose 53s. Would choose 53s 10 out of 10 times over the Osprey. As cool as the Osprey is, I love my helicopter. But let's see, where was I? After that, found out I was working on CH-53s. That schoolhouse then goes to North Carolina. So I was in North Carolina from December till July. At the end of that 6 months of class, I got my final orders, which are your orders for your job. So found out I was stationed in San Diego, which going into the Marine Corps, that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be San Diego or Hawaii. And then got the aircraft that I wanted to work on as well. So everything was kind of going in the right direction and just kind of kept falling in line. Really, at the beginning of my Marine Corps career, it was just kind of everything I wanted was kind of just falling into place. And I was not used to that, but I was also not used to having that type of structure in my life. So being told where to be, when to be there every single day, what to wear, what to bring, what we're doing, I had that structure for that entire time I was in the Marine Corps, and that being in that environment for me was huge. I mean, having structure and, timelines and a high pressure job, like everything kind of felt like it was supposed to be for that.
I love it, man. Yeah. And I was going to ask this in a very general sense, but do you think that that's why a lot of, I'll say men, just because it's a man podcast here, but do you think that's why a lot of men are drawn to the military service is for that exact thing, that structure?
I think a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, I know when I joined, I didn't have any plans for after, but I had there was no doubt in my mind that going through all that change as a person, as a Marine, and growing through that, I didn't think there was any way that I could ever go back to how I was, if that makes sense.
100%. So,
yeah. Going in, I was like, okay, this is the ass kicking I need. This is the fire under my ass that I need. And it was. And then, everything kind of got taken away from that. So going into that, where I was in my life and mentally, it was perfect for me. I mean, it was a shitstorm brewing, but it was what I needed at that time. And it was, I don't know where I'd be if I did not join. I mean, yeah, it's so hard to even picture that or see that. 'Cause I mean, just from boot camp on, just so changed. But at the same time, it was super easy to fall back into my old routine, old self by losing that structure. I mean,
right. Okay. I was curious about that too. And so before we get to that specific point, obviously a little bit more adversity hits us along the way. So if you want to talk about that next, I think that'd be a good next point to discuss.
Yeah. So I was doing well in the Marine Corps. I was picking up the rank like I was supposed to. I was getting all my qualifications that I needed. Just getting ready to pick up my CDI stamp. Basically, that allows you to sign off the aircraft, saying that all the work was done per the books, and we did everything accordingly, and the aircraft is safe to fly. And so that was what I was working towards the whole time. Once I got to the fleet, and ended up getting sick about a month after I started dating my now wife. We met in the Marine Corps, but about a month after we started dating, I got real sick. And I had kind of assumed it was strep throat. I'd had strep quite a bit as a kid and growing up. And when I got strep, it got really bad. I would just get I had a couple fainting spells and stuff like that. But this time it felt really different. And it had been like the second or third day. And of course, I'm avoiding going to the medical bay and avoiding medical at all costs. And I wake up one morning and I'm trying to walk to the bathroom and I get this sharp pain in my chest and I just drop. And I was like, what the hell? So I was like, okay, maybe it's time to go to the doctor. And finally went in, talked to the nurse practitioner and her assistant. They looked at my throat. They're like, holy shit. Like, you have sores everywhere. It's completely inflamed. It's all red. Like, we'll be right back with the swab. And they come back 20 minutes later, no swab. And they say, hey, doc says he doesn't need to see you. He says it's just an upper respiratory infection. We're going to get you some Motrin, get you some Mucinex, and we're going to get you out of here. And so they gave me a cold pack, told me to, that I'd be better by the weekend. And Friday night rolls around and I'm over at a buddy's. And then about 1 a.m., 2 a.m., same thing starts happening. And it, but this time it's even worse. It feels like a truck is just sitting on my chest. I'm trying to puke. I'm trying to do like everything to get this out. And I'm on the verge of calling an ambulance for my buddy right upstairs. And I finally just was able to let it subside and kind of fell asleep on the couch after a couple hours. But I had to go to the desert 2 days later for that detachment, which is why I went to medical in the first place, because I wanted some medicine before I got to the desert and didn't have anything. And so I get to the desert, El Central, California, and go and get all my groceries and stuff for the month, because I'm supposed to be there for at least a month. And wake up the next morning and same thing all over again.
Oh man. So the third time in a row now we've had this instant.
Yeah. So I woke up, I chugged an entire thing of like vitamin water, go to the flight line. I'm walking the flight line, getting ready for the day, checking for FOD, foreign object debris, checking for FOD all over the flight line. I'm puking all over the flight line. I walk into the shop. Everyone's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Like, you are so pale. Like, I'm like, I feel so bad right now. And they're like, dude, go to medical. Went to medical, clutching my chest. They immediately hook me up to an EKG once I get there. First corpsman runs it, says, I don't think I hooked this up right.
Oh my God.
Goes and grabs 2 more corpsmen. They come back, check all the leads, ran it again. They still look confused. Next thing I know, the whole clinic is walking back. And essentially the person who ran the clinic introduced himself, told me an ambulance was on the way and that I'm showing STEMIs on my EKG. And if you don't know, STEMIs are what show when you're having a heart attack on your EKG. So I'm in the ambulance. We're heading to hospital number 1. And they hit the lights, hit the sirens, we're blowing lights after they tell me, what a STEMI means. And I get to the hospital, they do chest x-ray, MRI, all this stuff. And they can't admit me because I'm active duty. So they're looking for a hospital in San Diego to send me to. And I just begged them not to send me to, Balboa, which was the naval hospital in San Diego. And unfortunately, that was the only place available. And because I was active duty, I had to go there.
So why not go there? Just out of curiosity.
Didn't trust the doctors.
Oh, I see.
And, I was in this situation to begin with from trying to avoid the doctors. And as soon as I go in there, he doesn't even come in the room to look at me. He just tells the nurses he doesn't have strep. It's just an upper respiratory infection. And so he sent me away without even looking at me.
The first or the second time?
The first time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
So the second time I went in is when they hooked me up to the EKG and ran out and immediately sent me to the hospital. So then that night, after all my tests and stuff, I get loaded up into an ambulance in El Centro, and I have to make the drive in the back of the ambulance all the way from there to San Diego to Balboa Hospital. And once I'm at Balboa, I'm in cardiology for the first 3 days, admitted. And they couldn't find anything except for inflammation all over my body. I had inflammation all around my heart. I had pericarditis, myocarditis, endocarditis. Something was attacking my heart. They were just under the impression that it was a virus because the doctor who never came in the room told me it was a virus.
Yeah. So in any of this, I think that one of the lessons learned was just the miss the obvious maybe. And that we didn't do our due diligence. Now, I don't know these people. I don't know how this all works, but that seems to be what I'm gathering. Maybe an assumptive work instead of actually legitimately doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, they actually changed protocol at the clinic and the hospital because of me.
Oh, so, wow.
Anyone that goes into the clinic now and has even like just a tickle on their throat, they get a swab no matter what.
Gotcha. Well, sorry that you had to be the guy that did that, but thanks as well to all the other ones that are now saved.
Yeah, I actually witnessed it during my whole checkout process. I was in the clinic getting my sign-offs from the docs, and someone came in and I heard them at the front desk just say, my throat, it tickles. And they're like, okay, does it hurt? Like, is it red? And he's like, no, it just tickles. And they're like, okay, sit down. We'll bring you a swab. And I just looked at the nurse practitioner who was signing me out. She goes, that's because of you. I was
no way.
All right. Well,
at least you did some good, even though it went through hell and back to do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
oh no, you're good.
Gotcha. So continue with where you were at.
So I'm in cardiology first 3 days. Did multiple MRIs, chest X-rays, all that type of stuff. They're chasing a virus, so they're like not giving me anything. I mean, I'm having heart attacks essentially.
That's
and
crazy.
I'm in so much pain. I'm about to put a fist through the wall, because there's a truck sitting on my chest is what it felt like. It's the easiest, closest I can get to describing it. And they were just like, okay, we're going to get you out of here. And they were all excited about it. I'm like, you guys didn't figure anything out. Like, what do you mean I'm getting out of here? And, all my, squadron is in the desert at this point. So no one is in San Diego with me. I had a couple friends visit the hospital while I was in, but I was just there laying, and they had no answer for me. And then they just were like, okay, we're going to send you out. I was like, okay. And so they didn't let me go back to the barracks because they assumed that's where I got the virus. So they're like, do you have any friends that you can go stay with or anything? And I did, because they were in the desert. So they let me stay at their house. And I think day 2, because it affected my heart severely. So I was already on at least a month of limited duty. So I wasn't going to be working on the aircraft.
So this is delaying basically all that work. Okay.
And so a couple days go by, I'm at my buddy's and I wake up from a nap and, when you do some curls and you get that forearm tightness. Well, I had that forearm tightness, but I had no reason to have it. And it started kind of going on my arm. I started noticing around where they had all my IVs and where they drew all my blood and did all the blood work. I had all these little bumps and it was kind of red. And then as the day progressed, I couldn't walk really well without limping. My like Achilles was swollen.
Jesus.
And I could look down and see, like, you know how your calf goes in like that? Well, my calf went straight down. Like everything was swollen and I couldn't step on it. And then I took another nap and I woke up and my joints were just killing me. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what's happening, but I think I'm having an allergic reaction to this medicine that they're giving me. And my buddy took me back to the ER. And because of my heart episode a couple days prior, they immediately admitted me. I went straight back to ER, and I don't even think I was in the ER for over an hour before I was up in infectious diseases, admitted to the hospital. I think I spent 3 or 4 days that time.
So, I mean, you got to be just so fucking frustrated because we're not gaining any progress. We're just continuing to have problems. Everything's continuing to get delayed. And like, again, we were thriving. We had this little hiccup that we thought was going to be strep throat, and we're just taking it and not getting anywhere. I mean, gosh, I'm pissed off just listening to this story. I can't even imagine going through that.
Yeah. And so second time I'm in infectious diseases. My inflammation in my body gets to the point where I'm frozen in my bed like this. I can't open my hands. I can't move my arms. I can't get out of bed to use the bathroom. Like
you're literally curled up. Like those that might not be able to see, like you're physically curled up.
Yeah. I had arthritis in every single joint. So inflammation just was covering my whole body. And again, they were chasing a virus. So the entire time I'm in the hospital, they're drawing my blood like every 2, 3, 4 hours. And
it never
testing me for everything under the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a case study at the hospital. So every hour I'd have a group of student doctors and doctors, and they would come in and ask me the same questions every single hour. I would tell them the same story, tell them exactly the same thing every single time. It'd be like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd have corpsmen on each side of my arms, just not even wake me up, just start prepping me to draw my blood. And they're sitting there having a conversation with each other. I'm in bed, miserable, 3 a.m. And they're just having, conversations with each other while they're like over and over, just poking me with needles and missing my veins. I mean, like I yelled at the corpsman while I was in there because I was so sick of it.
I would have said, can you shut the fuck up, please?
I was just another body. And like, I didn't have anyone there with me. And, like my girlfriend is in the desert. My whole squadron's in the desert. It's just me and these doctors. And that's all I knew for a good month.
That's so fucking shitty, man.
I was in there, like I said, 3 or 4 days that time, and thought that was it. Got out. They got my inflammation levels somewhat down, so I could like move my joints a little bit, just very painfully, and went back home. And within the week, I was back in the ER. My bowels became inflamed at that point. And so nothing could pass through my body. The only thing that would like come out of me was like tar. And so I had no idea what the hell was going on. And I go back to the ER, and this time they're like, dude, you've got to be in pain. Like there's nothing, like your stomach is so inflamed. Like we've never seen it like this. And they were giving me, Dilaudid, like, and that would subside the pain for a little bit. But I was in the ER, I think, for like 12 to 18 hours that time. And then they discharged me. They didn't admit me the third time. But it came down to a week later, I had to go back and get formally discharged. And I went to the infectious disease doctor, and he goes, we don't honestly know what is attacking you. We know it's a virus. We're not certain which virus, but it mostly resembles Coxsackie virus, which, if you don't know, is like foot and mouth disease in kids, just because of the rash and all that. I was like, okay, cool. Like, we didn't figure it out, but I'm getting better now. Like things are looking up, whatever, we're past this. And he's like, but I am going to send you to dermatology just to get that rash looked at, because I hadn't had a biopsy on the rash that covered my entire body at this point. I mean, from my neck down, it was just all these red little nodules sticking up, and they didn't like itch or anything, but they were just so annoying, and they covered my whole body. And went into dermatology that day, and the dermatologist looked at me for not even 30 seconds, and he goes, "They told you this was a virus?" I'm like, yeah, that's what they've been chasing for the last month. He goes, "This is bacterial through and through. Not a doubt in my mind." And it took a dermatologist just to physically look at me and say, all those doctors are fucking wrong. And then he's like, "I'll be right back." And he goes and grabs the head of dermatology and this giant dermatology book, flips some pages, shows it to the head, and he goes, "What do you think?" And he goes, "I don't know what else it could be." And they both look at me. They're like, "Hey, did you have strep throat?" And I was like, "Well, I thought I did." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "When I first went to the clinic, I told them I had strep throat, and they told me like I had sores everywhere. It was all inflamed, all this stuff." And he's like, "They didn't give you a throat swab?" And I'm like, "No, they never gave me a swab." And I'm like, "They've been drawing my blood every 3 hours this last month. Could my levels be checked through that?" They were. I have all my documents from the entire time I was in the hospital. My strep levels were astronomical the entire time. And so he's like, "No, this is bacterial. I think you have rheumatic fever. I think this is strep throat that went untreated." And he sent me back to cardiology. And my cardiologist just looked like she had seen a ghost. I mean, she was just like, "There's no way we missed this. Like, absolutely no way."
Well,
She's
you
like,
did.
and she goes, we're gonna run this very specific strep test. It's been about a month. You shouldn't have strep in your body at this point. My strep levels were still astronomical. I mean, just through the roof. And that was a month later. And so everything again was like, all right, we figured it out. Like, but then, so I get back to work. I finished my limited duty, and I just picked up my CDI stamp. So I'm getting back to work. I took my CDI test, back to working on the aircraft. I'm working on my first MAF as a CDI. So I'm about to sign off this huge, huge MAF. And someone runs out to the flight line and they go, "Woody, Doc needs you." I was like, "What?" "Okay." "Like now?" He's like, "Yeah, go." All right. So I ran in, got into Doc's office, asked him what's up. And he just like, "Hey man, you should sit down." I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I thought someone died. And he goes, "I've been doing some research on your case, and unfortunately I have to put you on a med board." I was like, What do you mean? We figured it out. Like, I have rheumatic fever. Like, I just need antibiotics. And he's like, "Well, unfortunately, due to the damage that it caused to your heart, it is a disqualifying factor for the Marine Corps." And so I'm getting ready to deploy. My girlfriend's getting ready to deploy. Whole unit's getting ready to deploy and leave. And this is maybe a month away. And then boom, it's gone. He's like, "You will not be able to deploy. You need to go on a med board." And I don't know what, I mean, he didn't really have much else to give me other than he has to do this and he's sorry. And so it's just
so
like,
there's that second major piece where, the first one could argue, a little bit unexpected in terms of you were on the antidepressant, you got off that. It was a different type of struggle, if you will. And then finally we're getting this momentum where we're really striding. And then just to have this news come to you, I mean, this is that's a real fatal blow, like not literally, but just to go through all that medical treatment and then to get to that point and have that be the case. I mean, just kind of curious, like, what are you thinking at that point?
It's over. I mean, everything I'd worked for, everything that because for the first time in my life, I had somewhat of a future planned out.
Right.
Minus, from junior high on, Marine Corps or nothing. At that point it was, I'm gonna at least do 10 years in the Marine Corps. I'm gonna by the time I'm there, I'm going to be able to find out, is this what I want to continue to do? I definitely wanted to retire from the military, not necessarily the Marine Corps. I had, some thoughts about doing like 10 in the Marine Corps, and then transferring to the Air Force and finishing my career Air Force, kind of setting myself up for like an IT type gig or something. I didn't know if I wanted to work on helicopters forever. And so, but for the first time in my life, I'm actually like planning ahead and like kind of have these goals and these dreams and these thoughts of the future, which as a very depressed kid and depressed teenager, I didn't have that.
Right.
I never saw myself graduating. I never saw myself actually graduating boot camp. Never saw myself becoming a Marine. Like that was always, it was this or that. It was this, or I'm going to end up dead, or, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps and then I'm going to figure it out from there. Or the reason, I think I had mentioned this on our phone call, but I knew from an early age that the Marine Corps was it because I wanted to die. That was the solution for me not killing myself. When I first started it, we were in the depths of war. Everyone was overseas fighting, and I was, keeping track of all of it. I was, following along, and I was invested in it. And I had it was my intention to join the Marine Corps and get killed. That way I wouldn't have to kill myself, but I could go out, a hero.
Honorably, yeah.
Honorably, all this stuff. And so as sad as it is, from like junior high on, that was it. It was Marine Corps or die. And I know that sounds super gung-ho, but it wasn't that. It was, I don't see myself doing anything else.
Right. And in some ways, this gives you an opportunity to, like you said, serve a higher purpose and, get you further progressed and in an environment that you can at least express yourself in some way. Because as we've learned in the podcast, you just sitting around that's going to lead to a lot of not good things. So, I feel for you, man, in the sense of like just having something like that taken away. I can't necessarily relate in terms of this is your story, obviously, but just as a guy on the show here and hosting and being with you, I mean, that's a very, very tough blow. So the fact that you've even overcome that, knowing how close you were, I mean, I think is extremely, extremely admirable. So on those lines, I mean, when you're coming off of that a little bit, is that a pretty tough time period in terms of managing your day to day? Because I know, again, you're obviously, watching them do that. Was that kind of the lower point or lowest point, or how would you detail that?
Yeah, I was at a super low point. I was already at a low point kind of going into that. I had been on a deployment the year prior, and I came home 2 weeks early because my grandpa had gone to hospice, and watched him, his last 4 or 5 days of his life. And I didn't sleep that week. I stayed in his hospice room and just sat there with him. And I was numb, and I was numb for a lot of that. And I get back to San Diego, and then my squadron finally gets back from the deployment that I was on. And it was, I remember there were nights I would just black out, and my buddy woke me up on the stairs going into the barracks one. I mean, just like that whole time period is just a blur. I mean, I was at work or I was blackout drunk, and that's where I was. I was so depressed after he left, and I just felt lost. And this is kind of the time when me and Diana, my wife, started really talking and getting close and stuff like that. So things were down, things were starting to look up, and then started dating Diana, graduated corporal's course, got my CDI stamp, got sick, and then ended up where I was. So the whole last year of my enlistment, pretty much spent it at Balboa, the hospital. Right. I was there 4 or 5 days a week. For just various appointments. I had so many cardiology appointments. I had to meet with my med board lawyer. I had to meet with the med board. I had infectious disease appointments. And then, so with rheumatic fever, what happens is essentially it's your body, it's an autoimmune response to strep throat. And the way it works is your body becomes so infected with the strep bacteria that your immune system just starts fighting everything that bacteria grows on. And so the cells that your strep bacteria and stuff grow on are what is the same protein that's in your heart valves, that in your heart muscle, in your joints. So that was, the reactive arthritis. That's why my body was so inflamed and infected and I couldn't move, was because my entire body was just attacking itself, right, trying to fight off that bacteria. And now I'm lost on where I was. But
so what we were kind of getting to is unfortunately having to go through that real devastating blow, and just kind of, we haven't quite gotten to the flip side of that on how you kind of got out of that. But what I was going to ask you, and this might be a good bridge to get to the part 2 of the podcast, is, looking back now, obviously you're owner and president of your own business, obviously married, your gal, and like, what were some of those major lessons that like helped you get through that time? Because alcohol is, I would be a hypocrite saying I haven't abused alcohol in the past. I've abused marijuana in the past, all different types of stuff, because that's like the only thing you think that can just take the pain away. And so I was just kind of curious on, the lessons that you learned kind of getting through that particular part, because that to me seemed like you were just about it, again, hitting that future plan that you had thought to, unfortunately coming down.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, who you surround yourself with is huge. Mm-hmm. At that point, me and her got really close, and I had, someone I could be with. I had someone I could vent to. I had someone, I could just talk to about, and, people knew kind of what I was going through, but no one really knew what I was going through. And so, like, they knew like the outside looking in, but they didn't know what was already internally going on. So, you look at it from the outside and it's, oh, that sucks. Like, he got sick and it ruined his plans and all this. But who you surround yourself with is so big to me. And to just, it's hard. There were a lot of days where I honestly thought I was done. Mm-hmm. I was just going to give up. Cause I still had to go to work, but I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. Right. I became an admin bitch and took care of the Marines and made sure everyone got their quals and did what they were supposed to do. But
it's not even the work so much as like the air that got let out of the motivation. Like, you just didn't care at all.
I deflated.
Yeah, exactly.
Just absolutely deflated. And then, so you can't join the Marine Corps while you're on antidepressants, but you can be prescribed antidepressants while you're in the Marine Corps.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, during all this, I eventually got back onto some antidepressants. I was also a very huge insomniac. I never slept.
Which that doesn't help, knowing the quality. Sleep quality is a massive thing for our health.
Absolutely. And so they gave me trazodone. And I don't know if you've heard of trazodone, but it's basically they use it a lot for like super relaxation or to help people sleep. And these pills, I would take one at night. And if I didn't fall asleep right away, then I would be up for hours. But then also the next morning, regardless of when I took it, you're just groggy. Like just depleted for the day. And there were a few times where, I would abuse those. And I actually ended up one morning, like stroking out. I had gone out the night before and I got back and took a couple and just not not caring, not thinking, just whatever happens. And I woke up the next morning and I was shaving, getting ready to go to work. And I like lost my hands, started doing this. And I just like, I couldn't control my limbs. And I walked back into the room and I just collapsed. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was aware, but I couldn't move. And I was just like frozen on the floor. And Diana woke up screaming, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm good. I can't move. Just give me a second. Like, I don't know. But that was kind of my last round with those. I told them like, these things suck. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then, I got sick after that. So, but the whole time I'm going. So the whole last year I'm on the med board. I have a lawyer. I have multiple different specialist doctors that I have to see every other day. And then they were like, you also need to go to therapy because you're going through a lot and we can't be responsible for that. And so basically they forced me to go to therapy and group therapy. And that was kind of like, I did go to therapy my senior year of high school, but I was never like committed to it. It was just my parents wanted me to go. And,
checking a box.
Yeah. And so, that was kind of my intro into therapy and group therapy and just being able to start talking. And then they also taught me a lot of like coping mechanisms, not necessarily like shutting people down and getting blackout drunk and stuff like that, but, breathing exercises and, just ways to calm your mind and get back to like a relaxed state. And because that was the huge thing for me at that time was my anxiety and my depression. I didn't realize, at that time that I was, because I am bipolar. So I was very manic through a lot of this. And so being depressed is one thing. When you're manic, it's like you're on top of the world. Like if I could explain it, for me, I'm actually happy when I'm manic. I know that sounds kind of weird, but when I'm manic, I'm heightened. My senses are heightened. I'm able to do a lot more. I'm able to focus a little bit more. And things are kind of feeling like they're in motion, even though I could be up on like day 3 and, only slept a couple hours over the past 3 days. And I'm like wiry and jittery and out of it. But I still felt like I didn't realize it at the time until I got that diagnosis years later. So,
wait, so real quick here, if you don't mind. So just to make sure I'm fully understanding. So you are bipolar. And then in addition to that, have anxiety and depression.
Yes. And
then is there any other things on the list? And I do say that playfully.
Yeah, I know. No. The bipolar, the bipolar, the anxiety, it's all enough.
Good. Sorry to chime in, but so just another piece here, because I think this is valuable. So you were talking about breathing exercises. Can you think of any things either you do right now or that you think would be like if someone was going through this and they were similar to you, like what you would recommend for things that might help them out? Because I think it is important to share that as well.
Yeah. So the biggest one for me, and this is because my anxiety got, so extreme and my panic attacks became crippling and all this, breathing was the biggest, like, cause you can do it immediately. It's immediately onset. So, and it's what we've always known. It's in through your nose, out through your mouth. Maybe you hold it, maybe you don't, but you focus on the breathing. And then once you're able to focus on your breathing and get, reeled into that, then you kind of focus on other parts of your body. And then, so for instance, like you want to start with your breathing. So it would be, because at this point, my heart rate is probably through the roof.
Right.
And that's my first sign of I'm having a panic attack, or, but as I let it progress, I start losing the oxygen in my limbs and stuff like that. And it becomes completely, crippling. And so breathing at the onset usually can at least calm things down. Another big one for me for like panic attacks was like a weighted blanket. I found. So I knew like for dogs, like, like they have like the Thunder Buddy wraps and stuff like that for like thunderstorms and fireworks. Having that tight feeling on you is calming. It's relaxing. It's comforting. And so a weighted blanket when I would have panic attacks. And then another big thing, like my wife, I would just be like, babe, I need you. Yeah. And she would just pretty much wrap her body around me, and we would just lay there for however long I needed. And yeah, I mean, those three were probably the most beneficial for me.
Gotcha.
At least in my sense.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, because you never know who might be silently struggling that could use that information and potentially, find benefit in it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just breathing, it's focusing on your breathing. So the point of that is to take the focus away from whatever you're ramped up about, worried about, because anxiety is fear of the future. Depression is fear of the past.
Say that one more time. That was really nice.
Anxiety is fear of the future. And depression is fear of your past.
Wow. I like that. Could you, I know that this wasn't like scripted for us. Could you just elaborate a little bit on that? Because I think that was really, really powerful. So why did they come up with that phrase, I guess?
I don't even remember where I heard this, but as soon as I heard it, I'm like, that's exactly it. Fear of the future. I mean, because you're not worried about stuff that's already happened. You're worried about what's going to happen. So when you're thinking forward and you're, whether it's a daydream or a vision or, you just thinking forward thinking, if something worries you, that's what's going to cause the anxiety. So that's fear of the future. Depression is fear of fear of your past or reliving past memories. And and those are just the thoughts that, completely bring you down and are detrimental to your well-being. And so,
well, is there, and I know this is something in the ADHD world, is hyperfixation. And I'm imagining that probably goes in there too. So either with anxiety or depression, is that also amplified by hyperfixation on these things?
100%.
Okay.
I mean, so going through what I went through, I became so hyper-focused on my heart that I could feel every single beat. I was paying attention to every single beat, every little flutter. I would watch my heart rate on my watch. I'd feel pain in my chest. I'd watch my heart rate go up, and it was just a cycle. It was just a circle of, okay, I'm freaking out about my heart rate. My heart hurts, but also me thinking about it is just making it worse.
Right.
And it's just a vicious cycle, and it's so hard to get out of. And so that's bringing your focus in and being able to focus on one thing and then kind of, letting it grow into something else is huge.
Yeah. And I will do a quick plug here in terms of breath work and meditation and whatnot. I have used multiple apps and have done different forms of that stuff. And it absolutely is something to look into if you're struggling or if you're just trying to try a new health protocol. I mean, I'm not going to like overshare anything that like for me, just because this is more like your testimony and whatnot, but just like testing that stuff out, I think absolutely it works to be able to do that. So any just form of mindfulness, meditation, breath work, it's definitely worth to get in there. So just due to time here, I'm going to have us kind of conclude the career, personal and professional story, and then we'll kind of finish strong here with men's mental health. So, excuse me. So after all that had taken place, what gets you to becoming the owner and president of the company that you are right now?
So, like I said, the opportunity kind of fell into my lap. Things weren't going the best at my last job. Great career, great job, but I was gone. 24/7, didn't have, much of a life. If I was home, I wanted to be with my wife, and that was usually just for a weekend or every other weekend. I mean, there were sometimes I was gone 2-3 weeks at a time. So it just depended. And, sorry, I forgot the question now.
That's okay. Essentially,
ADHD.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. That's why I am hosting this thing and letting you kind of speak on things. So what essentially I want to do is I want to take where we left off of that kind of career and personal story to get it in line to where we are today. So then that way we can transition into the, like what I would say part 2, but we've kind of been bleeding it in the whole time, which is totally fine.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
All good, brother.
But yeah, so, all right. Where do you want me to start with this?
Wherever you feel comfortable. I couldn't remember maybe the finite, and I'll edit this specific part out here real quick.
Yeah.
The finite details of like, and I can't quite remember if it was post. I think, did you have a job before the last job to get to where you are? I'm trying
to.
Okay.
Just Marines, semester of college, 6 years on the road, and then business.
So the former job is the bridge from Marines to. Okay. So yeah, how about you go into finding that former job, and then we can easily kind of sail into what you're doing today, and then we'll flip the script a little bit and talk about mental health for a little bit, and then should be good.
Okay, sweet. So
hold on, just I'll count us down. That way I can cut it, or whoever is editing it can cut it. But 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right. So essentially, once I got out of the Marine Corps finally, and that was a whole debacle too. They were just trying to kind of kick me out, even though it was all their fault. And they were just kind of trying to separate me and let things go. And my lawyer was like, absolutely not. You have to fight this. So fought it for about a year, got down to DC and sat on a board in front of, Marine Corps colonel, 2 Navy captains, gave them my story essentially. And the Marine Corps colonel, he looked at me and he goes, look, our job is to take care of each other, and we absolutely fucked you over. So from now, you're going to stand retired from the Marine Corps. We're going to take care of you for the rest of your life. And that's kind of how things went.
Wow. So they did step up and do the right thing.
Yeah. So pretty much I sat in that room and gave my testimony and just told the story from start to finish. And one of the captains was a doctor, and he had my medical records in front of him, and he just followed along to my story and just nodded his head the whole time. I mean, they couldn't deny anything. I mean, all the evidence was right in front of them, and I gave that testimony, and they didn't even ask me. They asked me nothing. Like normally they're supposed to drill you, make sure you're not lying, do all this stuff. He just said, is there anything else you want to add? And I was like, no. And then we took a recess, and then my lawyer informed me, you're going to retire. So things were again once looking up. I got married. We got married, and my wife deployed 2 weeks later. That deployment that I was also supposed to be on. And so we get married. My wife leaves me immediately. All my friends leave me immediately, and I'm stuck in San Diego pretty much by myself. I got my dog with me, but I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean,
and this is like a total reset at this point. Like the chapter has been closed. We did all that we could in the Marine Corps. Like it ended on the good note that it did, but now it's like, oh shit, like what the hell do I do?
Yeah. And so I was like, well, you know what? I'm a Marine. Like I got my shit together now. Like now I can focus on school. Now I can be a good student. I can do this. And granted, at this time, I'm still only diagnosed depressed. So the whole time I'm in the Marine Corps, I have depression and anxiety. And so I get out. It's summer. I'm going to wait till fall to go to school. And And I pretty much spend every day just drinking from the bottle at that point, because I was so lost and I didn't know what I wanted to do, what I was going to do. And no one was around me. Right. And so it was just me and my dog for a good, 5-6 months. And school started up, realized right away, like, things have not changed. I still cannot focus. We're shit. And I was like, I need to find something. And so my wife was getting ready to get out within the next year. And I was like, look, you can go to school. I'm going to find a job. We need money. And because I don't know if you know, but San Diego is not cheap and you don't make a whole lot while you're active duty. So we were, we had her income. I had the VA money now, but I needed school to start in order for that extra paycheck to come in. And so I wasn't liking it, wasn't feeling it, and started applying everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Just any job I saw, applied. I applied for this job that I thought was medical devices, like fixing them. And because they were called Sick USA. And I jumped at it. I was like, hey, that sounds cool. Let's try it out. And did the interview, found out it was complete different world, different job, different whatever, but still sounded really cool. And the benefits were amazing. I mean, it's a European company, so the benefits were top notch. And I was like, I jumped at it. It was kind of like, because at the time it was either SpaceX, which hindsight, I really wish I kind of got that job just because I would have been working on the Dragon cockpit.
Oh, man.
And would have been part of history for that, since that was the first privately owned rocket to send people to space. So regret that a little bit, but things work out the way they're supposed to. So
right.
I started working that job. My wife got out of the Marine Corps and we ended up moving to Colorado. And at this point, I'm traveling, I'm all over, and we're trying to establish life here and kind of get started, because we both just got out of the Marine Corps. We both don't know what the hell we want to do, who we want to be, and we have no plans. We're just trying to get through it. And, I'm on the road a lot. So with that rheumatic fever, I was supposed to be on antibiotics every 3 weeks. I was supposed to get a shot in my ass. I don't know if you've heard of the peanut butter shot, but it's penicillin, but it's like a thick white paste. And so you get the shot in the muscle of your ass, and it feels like a Charlie horse for like up to a week at sometimes. But so I was supposed to get this shot every 3 weeks for 10 years to life.
Oh my gosh.
Just because, doctor never wanted to swab my throat, now I'm supposed to be on antibiotics for the rest of my life. And being on the road, trying to deal with the VA, that was a nightmare. So for a while, the VA in San Diego would just ship it to me. And my wife, they actually taught my wife how to give it to me. And when I moved to Colorado, they no longer shipped injectables, but it took me 2 years to find that out. So I had been like going forever without my shots, and I couldn't figure out why. And finally some random person at the VA was like, oh, they don't do injectables in Colorado. They just have to come in and get those. And I was like, oh, okay. Who are you?
Yeah. I wish someone would have said that.
And so, I'm like, look, I told my doctors, I'm like, look, there's no way I can be here every 3 weeks to get my shot. I live on the road. Like, I either give me the pills or I'm just done with antibiotics. Right. And so they gave me the pills, and I was supposed to take those every single day. And then I was like, no, fuck this. Like, I haven't had strep since, and I'm just gonna fight it. And so stopped taking the antibiotics, which still haven't got strep, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyways, I'm at this point and still no clue what I'm doing. But the job, it was a great job, and it carried me for quite a while. But while I was on the road, I was having all these issues and just still mental health, problems. And I had actually been through a couple therapists. I'd been through a couple psychiatrists, and, I couldn't really get anything to kind of stick and be productive and make progress with my medicine and stuff like that. And so finally I got to a therapist that was super easy to talk to, listened, was constructive, but also like uplifting. And I've actually had the same therapist now for, I think, 4 or 5 years.
Excellent.
And, there's times in my week where I'm like, I'm like, hey, I should tell my therapist this. Like, I need to tell my therapist this. And so I never would have got to that point had I not continued going to therapy. But as I got more and more comfortable just talking to someone and saying how I feel, not bottling it up, just slowly, expressing myself and kind of saying what's going on, it really allowed me to be able to vent and feel better after those sessions. And I would actually kind of look forward to them because I have so much I need to get out and just say. And it got to the point where, I was looking forward to my therapy appointments, and that was super odd for me. But I would say therapy has probably been the number one, beneficial thing for my health, just because it's consistent. I know she's going to be there. And, having her this whole time, what was so annoying for me in the beginning was I would get this new therapist, I'd get this new psychiatrist, and I'd have to start from the beginning every single time. And then I would go for a few sessions and I would never get past that. And I would never be talking about what's currently, messing with me. It was always, well, how'd we get here? And that's important. But at the same time, I couldn't get anywhere because
you weren't evolving past that. Like
right.
It's only for you. You're like, okay, I understand that I want to do this, but it's not providing me any value just retelling my story all the time. That, in fact, is just reiterating the stress that I've been through and not, allowing the therapy to actually take its turn.
Yeah. And so, finally, after years, I finally got a therapist that I liked and could talk to, felt comfortable. And that just progressed and progressed and progressed. And, finally it came down to the point where I was diagnosed bipolar. And, I was 28, 29, I think at the time. And as soon as I got that diagnosis, something clicked, and just like a wave of all these memories of like my past just came like rushing. And it's like, holy shit. Like, I was so down at this point in my life, or I was so manic. Like I was just doing the dumbest shit. And I had zero, like, I didn't care about the future. Like it was just so, and then but it became so clear to me, like,
why,
when I was in that state, like, cause I would always, I'd go out, get drunk, wake up the next day and just hate my life. Not because I'm hungover, just because I'm sure I made stupid decisions. I don't remember. I blacked out. Like it was just a constant cycle of, this and then regret, this and then regret, or fuck this up and regret. And self-sabotage was it became so clear to me over and over and over how many times I would do it and just take the good in my life and just ruin it, or just not care about anything but that moment. And I was so entranced in that moment that like nothing else existed or made sense. It just, right. You get tunnel vision and everything becomes so cloudy.
Well, let's do this, because I really want to use that as a nice lever to talk about mental health, as we had wanted to here. So just as a quick courtesy to you, you're going to therapy, you're working in the job that you had, but then ultimately you do find the ownership role that you're currently in right now. So if you're okay with it, Reid, I'd like to just kind of, close the book on the actual professional journey and now pivot a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent. I just didn't want to shortchange you if you felt like there was more to say there, but so I really want to explore this concept of bipolar nature, if you wouldn't mind, and then self-sabotage as well too. Only because I think it's very good to raise that awareness that we talked about in the first part of the podcast. But self-sabotage is something that I've read enough about to pique my intrigue on the concept of it and how the heck it works. So I'm sure we'll bounce around a little bit, but what's kind of your definition of being bipolar, just to kind of, again, raise that awareness of maybe what the mental thoughts are or what you've experienced to help somebody else out?
Well, I mean, you have your general basis of bipolar, that the clear like image that kind of everyone thinks of bipolar. You know, I'm either very sad or I'm very ecstatic and uncontrollable. A huge thing for me is impulsivity.
Yep.
Yeah. Impulsivity. Not in like I said before, you're so in the moment when you're manic.
And can you define that for me just a little bit? I don't need like a Webster's dictionary of manic, but just for the common person, or like you're explaining it to like a 5-year-old.
So when I say you're in the moment, like you have tunnel vision, you have focus maybe on one thing or maybe a couple things, but nothing else matters really. So I know spending $2,000 at the casino is going to be a huge problem for me tomorrow. But right now, I don't give a fuck.
But you're just so locked into that. Yeah. Okay.
And, but receiving the diagnosis of bipolar, I'm now able to, I know when I'm ramping up towards mania. I know when I'm declining towards depression.
Okay.
It's not often I'm right here. I'm always teetering. But I can sense and I know the signs and the signals of, hey, you're ramping up. Let's kind of tone it down. Let's not go out. Let's not go drink. Let's not do this. Let's, be present with ourselves.
Yeah, gosh, the progress you've made, I can already tell. I mean, obviously it's not like we grew up or anything. But like I can just, the way you're talking about it gives me the impression that you've worked a lot on this and your awareness is great.
I mean, my therapist still has to tell me every time we meet, like, Reid, look at everything you're juggling on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Look at everything you've juggled for the last 10 years. Look at all the progress you've made. Look at this. Look at this. Look where you are now. I mean, could you say any of this about yourself 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 3 years ago? And so I'm still clouded. I'm still a very negative person.
Sure.
I'm full of self-doubt, I've low self-esteem, you name it. But at the same time, like getting those reminders, it helps me in that moment. Okay. Things aren't as bad as I make them seem.
Right.
Things aren't as down as, they seem. And but with mania, I get clouded. I get very clouded with depression. And I think a big thing that I want to talk about with depression is your memories. Like, not that I'm the host, but I just want to ask you real quick, when you think of your childhood, is it pretty happy memories, like sports and, maybe girlfriends or, trips with the family, stuff like that?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say overall, good experience, but I would also say that I'm just a very naturally positive person. I don't know why or how that's the case, but it's just I've always been kind of an uppity golden retriever kind of energy. So.
Yeah. So for me, when I think of Janesville, where I grew up, I have nothing but, sad memories. I remember being so depressed and so down. And I'm able to pick out these happy memories and stuff, but they're so drowned by all these negative thoughts, all these negative memories.
Yeah.
And when you're in a deep depression, you you're not storing, these thoughts, you're not processing the thoughts that how you normally would. And so when you're down and depressed, like, it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to only see that as like a dark cloud on your memories. And so depression kind of clouds a lot of my childhood.
Gotcha.
And so when I try and think of like happy memories, and like I really have to dig, and I have to, like, it's not just like that for me. It's, negativity always comes first, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
And
but I think, though, and I am no therapist, the self-awareness of that to begin with is what's been such a critical piece of the pie, because if you never even know that you're in that state, I feel like that's what's probably the most frustrating thing. And I'm sure before you had even got this diagnosis, that you look back, as you were mentioning earlier, and you were just like, oh my gosh, it's so clear now when I was having these tics and when I was having these episodes, like, this is why this is happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was like an epiphany of sorts. I mean, just like, holy shit. And then from that day on, it was like, I was very self-aware, and it wasn't more so like my anxiety, my heart, those issues. It was more like, how am I acting? What are some things that I'm doing? So like when I'm manic, I drive super fast. I'm swerving in and out of traffic. When I'm manic, I spend money that I don't have, or am saving for something that I actually wanted or needed. And I'm all over the place. As you've seen during this podcast, I can't keep my focus, in one spot. And so my stories kind of go all over the place. But when I'm manic, I don't shut up, and I annoy myself. So I know I'm annoying other people, or at least I think I'm annoying other people.
Sure. That's funny.
And then I got to ring it back in at that point. So that's kind of, when I'm manic and I know it, my self-isolation is a little different than when I'm depressed and I self-isolate.
Gotcha.
It's more so to not self-sabotage, not do those impulsive things, and just kind of bring myself back.
If I may, I know that we've been talking a lot about just the acknowledgement of this stuff. In some ways, though, I have to compliment you on, you have to have two different skill sets completely to be able to balance that. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to have one thing, but the fact that it's ongoing back and forth, and to not only know yourself, know your triggers, and in addition to that, get yourself back to equilibrium all the time. I mean, I think that your ability to have learned that over all that has happened, like, that's extremely impressive. So I'm not sure if you're good at taking compliments or not, but I think that's pretty damn awesome that you've endured enough to learn that about yourself.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, and I actually just talked to my therapist about this today. And I thank her for reminding me, like, look how fucking far you've gone.
Right.
Look at what you've been through. Look at what you've done, and so it's a constant battle. It's a never ending battle, and it sucks, but it's the life I'm accustomed to. And, it's all I can do is take it one day at a time.
That's right. Well, and you, man, have proven that you're a fighter, and I think that there was another little mini podcast series that I was up to here recently, and we were talking about the victim mentality versus the hero mentality, and just being able to fight that battle every day. And one of the points that my co-host had brought up was that we were talking about self-talk a little bit, and it's every single day. You have to focus on this stuff. It's not like you do it one time, say one affirmation, or in this case, manage your emotions or your bipolar, one day. It's literally choosing to fight every single day. So that's awesome, man, though, that like you're choosing to fight, because you could choose not to fight.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even count the number of times in my life where I didn't feel like fighting anymore. I mean, I remember as a kid, first time I ever tried to end things, being like 8, 9 years old, being so sad that I took a pillow and I tried to tie it over my head. That didn't work. And I tried to take it and wrap it around my neck. That didn't work. And then I would just feel like a failure because I couldn't even kill myself. And so that started as a kid. And
that's some very deep stuff, man.
When, like when I close my eyes and I'm not in a very positive space, there's like 2 to 3 things that I see. And that's me in a car accident. That's me with a gun to my head, or that's me, jumping off like something. And when I'm in those states, like I can't close my eyes without picturing. I mean, that's all I see when I close my eyes. It's, when I see that, I've tasted, the barrel of a gun. I get that feeling. I get that tingle in my mouth. And when I say it's a battle, like I can sit here and talk positively out loud. And the entire time I'm speaking out loud, positively trying to, positive affirmations, all that stuff, my internal monologue is just just destroying everything I'm trying to build myself up with. So it's not just, like being positive and staying motivational and all that. Like I try to, but my internal monologue does not allow that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many voices in my head saying the opposite of what I'm saying out loud.
Right.
And so that's the hidden battle. And so like, it's hard to get to where you're explaining that. But my whole life, it's just been, if this doesn't work out, I'll kill myself. If this doesn't work out, I'll kill myself. And it could just be like, hey, someone cut me off on the highway. Boom. First thought, well, I'll just run into this next car and, head on and end it there. And I'm so used to those thoughts. Like that probably sounds super extreme to you, but those are just like the constant thoughts in my head. Like, and, I get the check-ins with my therapist, with my psychiatrist, all this, like, are you going to do anything about it? And it's no, the thoughts are there.
Right.
Like,
right.
You go to the doctor, do you have suicidal thoughts? Well, my answer is always yes. And they're immediately taken back. Like, what do you mean? Like, are you going to kill yourself? And I'm like, no, but I think about it like 24/7. If I'm not occupying my brain, if I'm not doing, productive things, if I'm sitting and I'm not in a good headspace, like those are my thoughts.
Right.
And it takes very little for me to get back to that headspace, but knowing, being able to kind of know when I'm ramping up, know when I'm being depressed, I'm able to kind of alleviate how serious those thoughts get. But at the same time, they're still there.
Yeah.
It's not something that goes away. And, like, I mean, there was one night in San Diego, we went out drinking that night and I don't remember what happened, but I do remember immediately as soon as we got home, just the veil came down and I was over being alive. And there was a bunch of glass in my trash can and I had no thought. I just grabbed the glass, took it to my arm, sliced my arm to shit, and went and laid on the couch with my arm dangling, just thinking that I would just bleed out. And I woke up the next morning and I had, just blood everywhere. I had all these scabs and I was about to go to my job interview for that job I had for 6 years. And I, had to wear long sleeves, cover up my arms, but it was just, my whole arm was like giant lines of scabs. And that was, there was no thought to it. It just, I saw the glass and that was the next thing I did. Like there was no process to, it just, I'm so down right now. This is the easiest. And then I was like, okay. And then I went to bed thinking that I would just bleed out.
Wow.
And obviously I woke up and.
So there's something that is internal that is very persistent, though, that is not allowing this to take place. And I think that of all the things, I mean, obviously this last little piece here, this has been extremely intense. And like to your points, to some folks that may not know about this may be like, oh my gosh, this is extremely, deep stuff. But at the same token, I mean, obviously you're being honest about it and authentic. And that's what, I mean, I would ask anyone to be, just to kind of help anyone else that'd be going through it. But there's got to be some kind of motivation to keep going, right? I just feel like this story that I've observed of you is there's something that just continues to allow you to drive forward and be present with those people in your life. And I mean, what would you say that motivation is for someone out there that might be struggling a little bit? How would you maybe give them a piece of advice or give them some motivation?
So I guess there's a couple ways to look at this. Like I mentioned at the beginning, conflict resolution is very key to me. I'm against conflict. And so I always wanted, I didn't want there to be conflict. So if I make everyone happy, there's not going to be conflict. And so growing up, it was always my mindset, like if I can be a yes man and just do everything they want, like everyone will be good and there'll be no conflict. And so, one, not necessarily, super beneficial to a lot of people, but a big thing for me was guilt and wanting to, please people. I'm a people pleaser. So I felt like if I filled that cup, good things would happen and I wouldn't have to deal with conflict and stuff like that. So one, trying to please people was always at the front. Sorry, can you repeat the question once more?
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So I had just earlier pointed out that you seem to just have this piece of motivation and keeps you going. So it seemed like you picked up right when I said that on what your next thought was. So go ahead.
Not letting people down. And so every time I'm in that state, whether do I kill myself or not, I'm racked with guilt in that scenario. And so I think of all the people that depend on me, all the people in my life that, would be, devastated or just crushed if I wasn't around.
Yes.
And not to like think highly of myself, but, my parents for one, that was, as a kid, that was always one thing, like, oh, my parents are going to feel like this is their fault. And I don't want, this to be the last thing that they remember me by, and I would just have like these little thoughts in the moment or in hindsight, or I didn't go through it, but then I thought like, Jesus, what would they have done? Like,
right. And I'm glad that you bring this up too, because again, not putting myself in your shoes in any way, shape or form, but I'm just very grateful that that's a consideration that you have.
Yeah. I mean, I love strongly. My family's huge and I grew up, very close knit. And so I was always just racked with guilt and guilt was a huge driver for me. Cause I hated feeling it.
Right.
And so it would get to the point where, okay, let's just sleep this out. We'll wake up and tomorrow's a new day. And so a lot of the times that's just how it would go. I'd get to that point. I'd have those thoughts and then kind of talk myself off the ledge, so to speak. And yeah, but the motivation, I didn't want to be, I don't want that to be how I'm remembered. That's been huge.
That's massive. Yeah.
I've been through a lot. I've fought hard my entire life. And to go out like that really feels weak. And I don't mean to say that suicide is a weakness. I know a lot of people will have that argument, But being on this side, like, you don't know the demons that people deal with at all.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it sounds scary the way I talk and how okay I am with death and not being here. But like I said, those are the demons that I talk to every day. Those are my thoughts. Those are constantly what's on my mind. And when you go in and day out, and that's, you have someone arguing with everything you want to do or think to do, or you have a negative voice telling you no, or you can't do this, or, just simple things like that.
Well, and I think just that consideration is super, super important, right? Because you wouldn't want that to be what tarnishes all the effort that you've put into getting to this point. And I am sure I'm not in the line of work that you're in, but I'm sure there's so much more potential for you to accomplish things that you want to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, my wife lost my train of thought. That's okay. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I don't want to be remembered for that. I don't want to be, just some sad story that people talk about. I want to make an impact, and I want to, while I'm here, I want to, do something worthwhile. And so going out like that, as easy as it seems, there's something deep in my mind that doesn't want that, even though it's been at the forefront of my mind for as long as I can remember.
Right. Well, and I think eventually too, I'm not sure how much this has been the case. I'm sure it's quite a bit, but just being an inspiration for other people and a strength for other people, I think that's got to probably be a point in some ways.
Yeah. And so, kind of how I got into this business is the opportunity presented itself. I was at a point in my life where, it made sense to take the jump, and I did. And now, I'm being active in the community. I'm going to these events. I'm sponsoring, certain events. I'm doing things that they're beneficial. One, they're productive. Two, but three, they fill my cup. And giving to others, being a shoulder to lean on for others. I think I posted this a while ago, but it's like, I would rather sit here and listen to you for hours than sit at your wake.
Yes.
And that just hit home because, I reach out to my friends all the time. I've talked to so many of my friends about getting into therapy, and a lot of them don't just brush it off. But, a few of my friends, they have gotten into therapy. They've gotten prescribed medicine, and they've made improvements. And, just even if they don't acknowledge, me for that, just seeing
right.
people grow and be better, and, that they're dealing with shit, and, you can kind of see them move past some of it. It helps. I mean, it's just helping others is so helpful for my mental health. Oh my gosh. It's big.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Well, any last pieces here before we get wrapped up on the podcast? And I just want to say thank you so much, Reid. Like, this has been, we knew it was going to get deep, but at the same token, we wanted to be here. We wanted to talk about it. And I know for a fact that there's going to be someone that's going to hear that and feel inspiration or feel motivation to keep going. So any other final words here before we get wrapped up?
Nothing final, but thank you for having me, man. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone, and listeners and fans of the Life with Nick podcast. It was great having you on, Reid, and we'll get wrapped up here. Until next time, thanks.